Okay, so I want to do a little testify about COVID symptoms and crop circle influence. And in the description, I'm going to put a link to the website of Frank Joseph. He's a wonderful author. And a few months ago, he did an interview on the Jeff Rentz YouTube channel. And I believe it's called COVID and Crop Circles as well. So what I want to do is just tell the story about what happened with me in my case, just for the heck of it. So that show was going to come onto the radio, or the the interview, and the day was summertime and it was really hot, and I was in my second day of having this really bad fever, which I hardly ever get a fever. So I was really sick. I hadn't eaten or anything for a couple of days, and I knew that I was sick because I'd been listening to some kind of toxic information. Plus, I might have eaten something bad, but for the most part, I also had that tight band chest across the feeling that people had described to get with COVID. And I had only had that experience one other time before, which was about a year before that. So October 2019, I did have COVID-like symptoms that lasted for a day. That was before the COVID thing broke out and everything. And I've always been sensitive to crop circles, to chemtrail activity and other things like that. But anyway, back to the Frank Joseph thing. So that day, it was morning, and I was in the second day of having that really bad fever. So I said, well, I'm just going to lay down and listen to this interview. And I was really excited about listening to it because he's mentioning crop circles, and I've always had a good relationship with crop circles, including a video in the year 2000 came out, and I bought the video, and then I reserved the library, our local library, to show the crop circle video in public. And not too many people came, except this strange older guy came to see that video. Also, I used to do some artwork of my own that resemble crop circles, and so I've never seen, well, I've seen a little one in the yard, but anyway, so, just to say that I was excited about listening to it. So I laid down in the bed, and then I turned on the interview, and Frank was starting to talk about stuff, and he showed an image of the crop circle and was talking about the molecule that it seemed to represent. It was a part 2 interview. This was the first part. So I was so delirious, feeling ill, that I just kind of looked at the screen, and then I laid down, and he was starting to talk about the technical aspect of the subject, and I knew I was going to have to really focus on what he was saying, because when people start talking about the science of this and that, sometimes it sort of goes over my head. And so I was laying down there with my eyes shut in a fever, getting ready to listen to him explain it any further. So the point being, I'd only listened to about the first 5 minutes of the show, and as he was getting ready to launch into the thing, I closed my eyes, and the next thing I know, I woke up right at the end of the interview. I woke up, and Jeff is saying goodbye, thank you, and I'm like, oh geez, I missed the whole thing, right? And so it's like I fell into a deep sleep. So I reached over for the phone to turn it back on and listen to it, and suddenly I noticed that I didn't feel sick anymore. The fever was gone from my body. I sat up, and this was in the middle of the day. It was like 10 in the morning. It was like 100 degrees outside. So I sat up, and I was like spontaneously, just instantly all better, to the point where I put my shoes on, got in the car, and went to the store. Now, I've never, ever recovered from something that quick in that kind of situation, just because I slept, Well, anyway, I just want to say that I knew what had happened in my particular case, which was that I did have a spontaneous healing, and it did happen while subconsciously I was listening to the information. It went into my subconscious mind. It collaborated with the deeper knowledge that I had about the issue anyway, and also with the acceptance I had of the healing power of crop circle. And And somehow my body took in the information as if I was taking in the chemical healing scenario that he explains in the talk that he gave to Jeff and in part 2. I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but the thing that really let me know that I did have this healing in my body was the fact that I had looked at the picture of that crop circle. There were 2 of them. And if you go to the website, you'll see the pictures I'm talking about. There was one, there was a picture of the COVID thing you do that they show all over the place, and there was another one that showed about the molecule. So what had happened in my case, because it's happened before in my life, is that when I looked at that image, it just went right into the intelligence of my body, and it healed the symptoms, just like that. So later on, when Frank describes how there could be a remedy in the form of a pill or even a vaccine that could neutralize the symptoms of COVID, I realized that what had happened with me was that when my eyes took in the information visually, that was just almost, I'm not saying everyone could do this, but in my case, it worked. That long story short, is that looking at those images healed my body, or actually put my chemical body in balance with that healing process that he described in technical terms, which I didn't listen to consciously or anything. I didn't take anything, but that it was a spontaneous healing because of that information itself. So I just wanted to say that, because what I think happened with me in my case, and I don't know if anyone else goes through this, but Kathy O'Brien, who wrote Transformation of America, she was just talking on Laura Eisenhower's channel about this documentary that's coming out. So Kathy O'Brien talked about this too, that people who were raised in these MK Ultra type programs or raised in super soldier type programs where their bodies were altered or enhanced one way or the other, and perhaps those abilities were used by other people in scenarios not of your own will. During the healing process, when you get away from that and you go through a healing process, you might find out that, like, let's say my eyes were enhanced, or that my body was enhanced with abilities to self-heal. So what's happened in my adult life, because I did a lot of healing, many, many, many years ago, about all the abuse and stuff that I went through, and then discovered that the so-called powers that I have just had organically or whatever have come to my aid, sometimes just without me trying or realizing it. And this thing about the eyes has been like this. Like, part of the abuse I had was that I was forced to look at things, and I was forced to look at, like, a simple example that some people have gone through, like my mother, when she would be yelling at me and stuff, she would always make sure that I was looking at her when she was yelling at me, like, look at me when I yell at you or when I talk to you. And there were other scenarios in my childhood where I had to look at things that were just unbearable, I didn't want to look at. So when I grew up, I would often not look at people, and I still often don't look right at people when they're talking, because a lot of times I just feel things, and I can feel the conversation. I don't have to look at someone's face all the time. It took me years to be able to really look at someone when they talk. But also what I noticed is that if someone was trying to talk to me who was sort of a control freak like my mom, they would get uncomfortable when I would look away from them while they were talking to me. I mean, strangers or friends would point out to me, why do you look over there when I talk to you? And I'm like, because I feel like it. I can hear you, you're talking, so I'm listening, like that. But I've noticed various people are very uncomfortable when you look away. And it's just a tactic that abusers often use. They want your eye contact because they know if they don't have your eye contact, then they're losing some of their ability to mind control you or control your whatever and to affect you. So anyway, so that's a negative side of the use of eyes and the use of looking at something. But being an artist, a lot of my healing came through being an artist and with colors and everything, and just now color therapy, like, you know, I have to look at pretty things all the time, you know, so it makes me feel better. If I have to look at a white wall all the time, I don't like that. But anyway, so that just brings me back to looking at the crop circles, that it could very well be that I just looked at that molecule, I looked at the picture of the molecule, the picture of the crop circle, and it healed me without me even thinking about the science of it. So that's what I think happened. And that's why I think that the type of, you know, like they're releasing this virus and they're hoping it's going to kill a lot of people, and it probably will, but if you're, it seems like if you can, like in my case I fell asleep, so it worked at my subconscious mind, but if you can, I'm just saying you figuratively speaking, if you're vibrating at a certain consciousness level, you can heal your body by just looking at certain things that make you feel better. It's just so simple in a funny kind of way. Like there's a tree out the window, and I haven't lived around tall trees in so long, so now I'm living around these tall trees, and it's just so wonderful to just look at the tree. It's amazing. So anyway, I think that's what happened with that crop circle. And so I really wanted to talk about this, to put a plug to Frank Joseph's work, because you know, it's pretty important. He hasn't done any other interviews yet that I've known about. And I made a comment in the comments section about that video, but I just thought, you know, geez, go to the website. I don't know, maybe there's something to that where people could look at the thing that they want to have activate in their bodies. So if you want something to help you or to heal you or to affect you, you have to stare at, you have to look at it. You have to see it if your eyes work. You have to see it. And your eyes, part of your brain, can send out influence and receive influence. And most of us are constantly in a state of receiving influence through our eyes. So you can receive influence concerning a remedy or an effect just by looking at whatever that thing is. Just like if you look at something unpleasant and you look at it, it can make you feel really bad. So that's all I want to say, is that we're coming to a place where spontaneous healings can occur just by you putting yourself in proximity with that which helps you. Okay, that's it.